Alright, big news just dropped, and I want to get straight into what it means for the 49ers. And for you as a die-hard faithful, the headline is simple. Max Crosby landed in Baltimore. The package reportedly included this year's pick in the mid to late first round, plus another first-rounder in the future. And that kind of price immediately tells you two things. 1. Teams were willing to enter a bidding war for Crosby. And 2. The Raiders won a huge haul. If you're sitting there thinking, wait, why didn't San Francisco get involved? You're not alone. The initial reaction I heard across the fan base is disappointment mixed with relief. Disappointed because Crosby is an elite pass rusher who could instantly make our front seven scarier. Relieved because giving up multiple first-rounders would carve into our long-term flexibility and could jeopardize the window the team is building toward. Let's break down the trade as it was described in the clip you sent me. The Ravens were reportedly willing to part with a high first-round pick this year and another first-rounder next year. That's vast capital. Crosby is an outstanding player, disruptive against the run, a relentless motor on passing downs, and a guy who consistently impacts games. But he's also approaching 30, which matters when you're deciding between short-term gain and a multi-year window built around younger investments. When a team gives up multiple first-rounders, they're effectively saying they value immediate, top-end proven talent over the draft assets that could pay off for years. Some organizations are absolutely built to do that. Others prefer to protect their draft pipeline. It's not right or wrong universally. It's about fit and philosophy. Now, what does this mean for our front office calculus? If you were watching the trade markets quietly and thinking the 49ers might chase Crosby, it's reasonable. The team has shown it will push to add difference makers. But giving up to firsts would be extremely steep, especially after prior moves that already tapped into that future draft capital. The smarter path for San Francisco, and the one that likely aligns with their long-term plan, is to be selective when a trade would cost not just one, but multiple future first-rounders. That doesn't mean passivity. It means looking for the right price and being ready to pivot when the asking price spikes into all-in territory. At the end of the day, cap flexibility, the depth of the roster, and the desire to maintain draft currency to keep the pipeline full are all factors that should keep the front office from overpaying, even for an elite edge like Crosby. I want to hear from you right now. Do you think the 49ers should have paid the first-rounders for Crosby? Type yes or no in the comments and give me one sentence explaining why. While you're typing, one tiny favor. If you want quick, no fluff updates on possible Niners moves like this one, hit subscribe and ring the bell. That helps this channel stay fast on breaking news for the faithful. I promise to keep the takes sharp and the coverage frequent. Before we go deeper into valuation and alternate plans, quick mid-roll. If you love this channel and you want to help fuel our quest for the next Super Bowl trophy, please subscribe and help us hit our goal of 1,000 subscribers. If you can, use the super thanks or hype feature. It's not a donation, it's fuel for better production, deeper roster tracking, and more inside coverage so we can bring you the content this community deserves. Every bit of support helps us keep the coverage rolling and gets us closer to the access we need to truly level up. Coming up next, I'll walk through whether those first-rounders were justified, what Crosby's age and play style mean for a team paying that price, and whether the 49ers should have matched or walked away. That analysis starts in the next chapter. When you look at a trade like this, the real question isn't just is Max Crosby a great player, because that part is obvious. The real question is whether he's worth the kind of price Baltimore just paid. To first-round picks is serious capital in the NFL. That's the kind of move that signals a team believes it is in full championship mode right now, and the Ravens clearly decided that adding one of the most relentless pass rushers in football was worth pushing their chips into the middle of the table. And make no mistake, Crosby is that kind of player. This is a guy who plays with one of the highest motors in the entire league. He's not just a situational pass rusher who shows up on third downs. He plays every snap like it's the last snap of the game. He's disruptive against the run. He's constantly collapsing the pocket, and offensive lines have to account for him every single week. When you're evaluating why Baltimore would give up to first-rounders, that's the reason. Elite pass rushers are one of the most valuable commodities in football. But from a 49ers perspective, you have to zoom out and look at the full picture. Giving up one first-round pick for a proven star can be a calculated move. Giving up to first-round picks starts to enter a different territory. Now you're talking about sacrificing long-term flexibility, depth building, and future roster control. And if you've followed the 49ers closely over the past few years, you already know why that matters. San Francisco has already lived through what happens when a team pushes massive draft capital into one move. The Trey Lance trade cost 3 first-round picks, and even though the organization has done a fantastic job recovering from that situation, it still left a mark on how the front office manages its assets. That experience alone makes it far less likely the 49ers would jump into another multi-first-round deal unless the situation was absolutely perfect. And that's where the Crosby trade becomes interesting for us as fans. Because if the Raiders truly wanted the first-rounders from the beginning, there's a good chance the 49ers were never going to be the team that met that price. One first-rounder? That's a conversation. But once the bidding war started climbing higher, the math probably stopped making sense for San Francisco. Think about it from the team-building side. Those first-round picks are not just players. They're cost-controlled talent for 5 years. They're opportunities to reload the roster with young impact players. Their flexibility. When you give up 2 of them, you're essentially betting that the player you're acquiring will have a massive impact immediately. Baltimore clearly believes Crosby can be that difference maker for their defense. Pairing him with the rest of that roster could make their front one of the most dangerous in the league. But for the 49ers, the calculation is different. The defensive line is already a strength of the team, and the front office has consistently preferred to build waves of depth rather than putting every resource into one player. Now here's something I'm really curious about, because this fan base always has strong opinions on moves like this. If the price had been only 1 first-round pick, would you have pulled the trigger? I want you to answer that in the comments right now. Just write 1 first, yes or still no. I'm genuinely interested to see where the faithful lands on that. And while you're down there in the comments, if you're enjoying this breakdown and you want more 49ers analysis like this throughout the offseason, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. Our goal is to build this channel into a daily home for the faithful, and hitting the 1,000 subscribers is the next milestone we're chasing together. Now, here's the other thing this trade tells us. The market for elite pass rushers is absolutely exploding. When teams are willing to give up multiple first-round picks, it creates a ripple effect across the entire league. Front offices start looking around and asking themselves whether they should trade for other players, pursue free agents, or pivot toward the draft. And that's exactly where the 49ers now find themselves. Because even though Crosby isn't coming to San Francisco, the need to continue strengthening the defensive front hasn't disappeared. The front office still has options, and some of them might actually make more sense financially and strategically than giving up the first-round picks in a bidding war. So the real question now becomes, what's the pivot? What direction could the 49ers turn after missing out on Crosby? That's where things get really interesting, because there are several possible paths the team could take next, and one of them could end up being a move that surprises everyone. We're going to break those options down next. So now that the Max Crosby domino has fallen and Baltimore made their move, the focus shifts to the next question every 49ers fan is asking. What's the pivot? Because when a major trade like this happens, it doesn't just affect the 2 teams involved. It reshapes the entire market. Front offices across the league start reassessing their options, and the 49ers are absolutely part of that ripple effect. The key thing to understand here is that missing out on Crosby doesn't mean the 49ers suddenly stop trying to improve the pass rush. If anything, it simply means the strategy shifts. Instead of pushing all their chips into one blockbuster trade, the front office now has the flexibility to explore several different paths. And that flexibility can actually be a huge advantage. One option is free agency. When elite pass rushers hit the market, they become some of the most sought-after players available because pressure off the edge changes everything defensively. A consistent pass rush forces quarterbacks to speed up their reads, disrupts timing routes, and creates turnovers. The 49ers have always valued that kind of pressure up front, which is why the defensive line has been a major investment area for this roster. Pursuing a free agent pass rusher would allow San Francisco to add experience and production without sacrificing valuable draft capital. Instead of losing multiple first-round picks, they could use cap space to strengthen the rotation and keep their long-term roster structure intact. That kind of move might not create the same headline shock as the Crosby trade, but sometimes the smartest roster moves are the ones that quietly make the team deeper and more balanced. Another path is the trade market, which is constantly evolving once big deals start happening. When one star player moves, other teams sometimes become more willing to listen on their own veterans. That's when front offices start making calls behind the scenes, exploring deals that weren't available a week earlier. The 49ers have shown in the past that they are never afraid to make a move if the price and the fit are right. And then there's the draft itself. The first round is where teams can find young pass rushers with elite athletic traits who can develop into long-term cornerstones. The 49ers have built a lot of their defensive identity through the draft, and holding onto those picks gives them the ability to continue doing exactly that. Instead of sacrificing the future for one player, they can invest in a younger edge defender who grows with the roster over the next several seasons. This is why patience matters. It's easy to see a blockbuster trade like the Crosby move and immediately feel like your team missed out. But sometimes the best move is the one you don't make, especially if the price climbs beyond what makes sense for your roster construction. Now, I want to hear from you again, because this is where the conversation gets fun. If you were sitting in the 49ers front office right now, which direction would you go? Type one word in the comments. Free agent if you want the team to attack. The open market. Trade if you think they should pursue another veteran. Or draft if you'd rather keep the picks and develop the next star pass rusher. And if you're part of the faithful that loves breaking down roster moves, an offseason strategy like this, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. We're pushing toward that goal of 2,000 subscribers. And every new member of this community helps us grow the coverage for 49ers fans everywhere. Because here's the reality, the offseason is just getting started. The legal tampering period is right around the corner, which means we're about to see a wave of signings, trades, and roster moves that will shape the upcoming season. The Crosby trade was a massive domino, but it's only one domino. There are plenty more about to fall, and the 49ers are going to be involved in some of those moves. Which brings us to the bigger picture. How should fans actually feel about this situation? Is missing out on Crosby a disappointment, or could it end up being the smart long-term decision? That's exactly what we're going to talk about in the final part of this breakdown. And this is where the conversation really comes full circle, because when big trades happen across the NFL, the first reaction is almost always emotional. Fans either celebrate or feel like their team missed out on something huge. But when you slow down and really think about what just happened with Max Crosby going to Baltimore, the picture for the 49ers becomes a lot more balanced. Yes, it would have been exciting to see Crosby in a 49ers uniform. There's no denying that. A relentless pass rusher like that lining up on the defensive front would have created nightmares for offensive lines every week. The idea alone is enough to get fans imagining what the defense could look like. But excitement and smart roster construction aren't always the same thing. The first-round picks is a massive investment, especially for a team that already has a roster filled with star talent and major contracts. The 49ers have built their identity on maintaining depth across the roster. That depth is what allows the team to survive injuries, rotate players on the defensive line, and keep the defense fresh late in games. Sacrificing multiple first-round picks for one player could have forced the team to sacrifice some of that depth in the future. And that's why the front office likely stayed disciplined while the bidding war played out. Instead of forcing the move, the 49ers now keep their draft capital, they keep their flexibility, and they keep the ability to pivot toward several other opportunities that could still strengthen the roster without creating long-term problems. Another important detail here is the divisional impact. One of the biggest concerns for 49ers fans was the possibility of Crosby landing inside the NFC West. If a team like Seattle had pulled off this deal, it would have immediately created a new challenge inside the division. Facing an elite pass rusher twice a year is never something you want to deal with. So while Crosby going to Baltimore means the 49ers don't get the player, it also means they don't have to face him regularly during the season. In the big picture, that's not the worst outcome. Now the focus turns completely to what happens next. The free agency window is about to open, which means teams across the league are preparing their offers and lining up their targets. This is where a lot of the real roster building happens. Some of the biggest contributors on championship teams come from smart free agent signings and well-timed trades that happen during this stretch. For the 49ers, that means the offseason is far from over. In fact, it's just getting started. The Crosby trade might be the headline today, but there are going to be plenty of other moves around the league that could impact San Francisco. And you can be sure the front office is already evaluating every opportunity. So now I want to hear your final reaction to this news. Are you disappointed the 49ers didn't make a move for Crosby? Or do you think avoiding that first-round price tag was the right decision? Drop your answer in the comments and let's get the conversation going. And if you're enjoying being part of this community of the faithful, here's another way you can help the channel grow. If you want to support the content and help us keep improving the coverage, you can use the Super Thanks or Hype feature right here on the video. Think of it as fueling the quest for the next Super Bowl trophy for this entire community. Every bit of support helps improve production quality, bring more consistent upgrades, and grow this space where 49ers fans can break down every move together. Also, if you haven't done it yet, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. Our next goal is reaching the 1,000 subscribers, and hitting that milestone will help us bring even more coverage, analysis, and breaking news updates for the faithful. The offseason is heating up, and if this trade taught us anything, it's that things can change across the NFL in a matter of minutes. And when the next big move involving the 49ers happens, you'll want to be right here discussing it with the rest of the faithful.